Right, sir.
So, good morning, everyone. On behalf of UN Women and National HRD Network, we profusely welcome each one of you in this consultation. This consultation, as you are aware, is led by United Nations Women in partnership with National HRD Network. But what is more important today is more than this consultation is the kind of leaders who have joined us today. We have none other than Babji joining us. Thank you so much, Babji, for your blessings,
Thank you.
your presence here. And we don't have words to thank you enough and more for gracing this very important platform. We have Rajiv ji, we have Goel ji, we have Anup ji, all the industry leaders are here. This session will be led by Amresh ji, who is the Vice Chairman of ICPB. And the idea of this session is to, while all of us we talk about the tourism sector, government is so positive about this sector. And the sector has created the soft power for our country. This has also created a lot of spine for our own people in India, for the culture which we have in the country, for the traditions which we have in the country. And because of tourism, the world is able to see the incredible face of the country. We also understand that we are doing this in a backdrop where we are clearly aware that a lot of the whole world is going through pandemic, and one of the sectors which is highly impacted by is our own tourism sector. So knowing this fact, but we also know that this problem will be there for another 12 months, 18 months, but the times will again come back. However, we cannot put on hold our efforts to create an ecosystem. This I must say and put on record. This lead was taken by United Nations Women because they believe that women are an integral part of this sector, and they have contributed a lot. And there is a lot in which United Nations Women can contribute in this. So I understand that, and we are very clear as far as the UN Women and NHRDN and all of you, all of us are on the same page and very clear that this consultation is a humble beginning of creating the kind of ecosystem which already exists, but there is a lot which needs to be done in that. So with that backdrop in mind, we are aware because you know the challenges best. You know what are the bottlenecks. You understand how to run the business. If done ABC, how it will help. If not done ABC, how it will become a bottleneck. So with these few words, welcome each one of you. I warmly welcome on behalf of UN Women and NHRD. With this, may I request Kanta ji to share her views with us. She's the country program manager, Second Chance Education for UN Women. Over to Kanta ji, please.
Thank you, Dhananjay ji. I hope you can hear me.
Yep.
Yes, ji.
Thank you so very much. And once again, on behalf of UN Women and NHRDN, I welcome you all. Special thanks to the senior leaders who have joined us today, particularly His Highness Gazing. We are really, really thankful to you for showing the seriousness this issue deserves. Also, your commitment to advancing India's tourism sector at world level. You already done so much. Special thanks to also Mr. Naya, Mr. Kohli, Mr. Amresh Tiwari, who I would like to thank so much that it is his initiative with Dhananjay ji that we are sitting here today. Amresh ji, really thanks a lot. And it's your leadership that you have been able to bring so many stalwarts in the meeting today. As Dhananjay ji mentioned, this initiative was started a couple of months back, where we wanted to bring together senior leaders from industry, this times, for example, tourism sector, but different industries, to understand what are the challenges that women face at workplace? What is the number of women that join these sectors? What can you do, and how can we make a way for women in the industry? There are many things that needs to happen, starting from hiring to making them partners in the businesses that we own. But before I bring those issues here, I would like to share what UN Women does. As you would know, UN Women is a specialized agency of the United Nations, which is focusing on gender equality around the world. It is not only a mandate, but also a mission for us to see women in every forum, including the decision-making bodies. As we are working in India for last several years, I would say several decades. But 10 years back, from UNIFEM, we became UN Women, and our focus has really been on promoting women's rights, economic, social, and political. Um, Another mandate that we have is to support governments at central level and state level to design legislation, policies, schemes, and programs for women, and back that up with the budget that they have. So it's not only making programs, but also making provisions for funds so that those programs, schemes, and legislation could be implemented on the ground. Uh, the program Second Chance Education that you would have heard from Dhananjay ji is a program to promote only that we walk the talk. We also make the governments accountable for doing what they need to do in terms of promoting women's economic rights. So we work towards promoting education for girls, particularly the ones who dropped out for some reason, then skill them, get them employed, and also entrepreneurship for women. We are working in 4 states, Rajasthan being one, and we are very privileged to be part of the consultation today. Odisha, Bihar, and Maharashtra are the 3 other states where we are working. And we have also requested our Odisha team to join the meeting today because Odisha state government has also started promoting tourism, particularly in rural areas. So coming back to the topic of tourism, COVID has shown us the way that it is not business as usual. And I'm very sure all of you have have also gone through tough times now because tourism has suffered a lot. We also saw that women were the first ones to be dropped out when COVID happened. You know the reasons, you know how the sector works. We are not experts in this, but you would also understand the challenges. I was also listening to Amresh ji, who was saying that government, particularly Indian government, hasn't supported the sector as such. Without getting into the politics of it, I'm just saying if a sector has to survive a pandemic like this, probably it needs support, particularly for saving jobs of people. Women constitute a large number of workforce in tourism sector, and we are concerned that their jobs have been affected, starting from oil rooms to guest houses to big hotels. Women have dropped out of workforce in general, but in tourism sector in particular. So today we wanted to understand from you the constraints, the challenges, and what lies ahead for us. So jobs, men and women both need jobs, but what is it for women that we need to do specially? How can we bring them back to jobs? What else can they do? What How can they be part of the value chains that the hospitality sector offers? um, how do you not only hire women, but how do you retain them? So we wanted to seek your guidance and your support in furthering this agenda. We are also doing something which is seeking your commitment for a long time. My colleague Suhaila is here. She would like to talk about the program that we have on we call it Women Empowerment Principles, where is industry in general and individual businessmen or leaders give their commitment to further women's empowerment within their own sector. So Thank you all very much for joining us today. We really are here to learn from all of you. Dhananjay has mentioned that it is not something that we can do anything about. We wanted you to guide us as to how do we work with you and in your sector, and what is it that is the expectation from you and women. Our aim, as I said in the beginning, is to empower women, and particularly economic empowerment, because without which their voices are not heard. Thank you all very much. I'm really thankful to all of you for joining us today. And we are looking for your guidance, and also we expect that you will show us the way to take it forward. Thank you all very much. Over to you, Suhaila. Thank you.
Thank you, Kantaji. And thank you so much, because we are saving time for so that we can more and more learn from our esteemed guest today. So over to Suhaila ji for her presentation. And I'm keep watching time. We are already 4 minutes plus, which will be added to the discussions now. So over to Suhaila ji, please. Should I stop share, Suhaila ji? Would like to share the screen?
Yes, and if you could please allow me to share the screen as well.
Sure, sure. Avinash ji, kindly allow Suhaila ji to share the screen. Meanwhile, I am stopping my share, please. Thank you.
Give me a moment.
Your screen is visible, Suhaila ji. You are on mute. Kindly unmute yourself.
Thank you so much, and I welcome you all once again on behalf of UN Women and Second Chance Education team, as well as myself. My name is Suhaila, and I lead a program called Women's We Empower Asia. Just to give you a quick background and how it finds synergies with Second Chance Education program. This program, We Empower Asia, which is funded by European Union, aims at working with businesses to make their policies more gender responsive. In a sense that the businesses are able to promote women within their workplaces, marketplaces, and in their community interventions. Now, this program is implemented in 7 countries in the region, and India is one of the country. Okay, I'm trying to move my screen. Just a second.
Suhaila, your screen is not moving.
Yeah, that's why I'm trying to see Madhulika.
Do you want to stop sharing and share again? Yeah.
We'll do that. Share it again.
Good morning, Madam.
Again, I'm sorry, let me do it again. Yeah. Yeah, okay. I hope it is visible to everybody.
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. So that was the context of the program and how it aligns with Second Chance Education, because the purpose of Second Chance Education is also to engage with the industry leaders like you, to be able to create opportunities for women, which you anyways do. But considering the situation, considering the context that we operate in India especially, we require, it becomes essential to take special measures for women to participate effectively in the businesses. So before going into deeper into the presentation, I would just like to reflect a little bit on the context in India that we operate in and what we are really facing. Of course, there is a declining women's labor force participation in India. Currently, we stand at 20%, which is really very low, one of the lowest in the world, but also has been declining over time. We also know that women are represented in vulnerable and informal employment. 90% of our workforce once works in informal economy, with mere 8% really in informal employment. And also women take majority of unpaid care work. And I would reflect a little bit here to make also give you a nuanced understanding here. The fact that, women spend a lot of time because of the gender division of labor, right? Because they are expected to perform certain duties such as cleaning, such as cooking food, etc., which takes away their time to be engaged in the productive work. Now I'm not saying that women should completely stop it doing. That's not the solution, but what we are talking about is what we essentially is the fact that there needs to be a distribution of responsibilities between men and women. There has to be a shared responsibility. There is a slogan called "Ghar ka kaam, sab ka kaam." So that is what we are trying to aim here. Women also face, a gender pay gap of 19% in India. They are underrepresented in leadership. You hardly see women in leadership positions. And also the fact that violence or discrimination and harassment at workplace, public and private spaces really limit their opportunities to take active participation in effectively participate in employment or entrepreneurial opportunities. We also see that women are not very much represented in STEM fields, that is science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and that is how they are unable to access decent work opportunities. And one of the reasons that they land up in informal and vulnerable employment. And finally, they face gender bias. Now, what do I mean when I say gender bias? What exactly I mean is the fact that there are certain attributes or there are certain traits. When women demonstrate them, they are considered as bossy, or they are being catcalled. So for example, if a woman demonstrates confidence, or if a woman demonstrates decision making, if the man demonstrates the same trait, he's considered leader, or he's considered somebody who is in control of the situation. But if women demonstrate same traits, they're considered as somebody who is too aggressive. So this perception about women, this stereotypical perception about women also limits their opportunities to grow and to grow in their career pursuits. They face glass ceiling, which is really they get stuck at certain positions without moving up in the career ladder, and they also face a sticky floor, which is the horizontal segregation of the job. So they are stuck there for quite some time, or almost for most of the time. Now, why gender equality is critical? There are three very clear and convincing arguments for the case of gender equality. One is, of course, the human rights argument. If you would look at the global scenario, 50% of the population, right, which is women, do face really challenges in accessing economic opportunities, which men do not face that kind of challenges, right? So it's also a human rights argument that is still today a 50% of population has to face barriers, has to face challenges in accessing the same opportunities as men. The second argument is, of course, the sustainability case. So we know there is enough evidence that exists that says, if you invest in women, they invest back on their families, in their communities and societies through education, through health interventions, or through clothing and better nutrition facilities for their children and families. What it does is that it creates it has implications for long-term well-being of the family members that of course contributes back to the society. And finally is the business case. Now we know that there is enough data that says that if women participate equally as men in the economy as labor force, then we could really expand our GDP. That is, of course, one argument, but also the fact that gender equality does promote innovation, and there is a data that suggests that if you enable more women talent as part of their businesses, then new ideas and processes are being integrated into businesses that are effective. So there is an innovation argument to this entire entire case. Of course, the fact that it increases productivity, as we have already said, that if you would include women as part of the labor force, the productivity increases manifold, and also market growth. Of late, the consumers are becoming really conscious about the brands that they are investing in. So if the brands are conscious about, say, for example, their fair trade practices or their sustainability practices, their environmental practices, consumers are really looking at how the brand that I'm engaging with, how conscious the brand is towards towards the concerns of the society. So then, promoting gender equality really makes a business case because of all these arguments. Now, then, how do we create a gender responsive business? And here, I would like to emphasize on these 7 principles called Women's Empowerment Principles. Now, these 7 women's empowerment principles were launched in 2010 by UN Global Compact and United Nations through a global multi-stakeholder consultative process. And they identified, these 7 principles were identified as a game changer in terms of enabling businesses to reflect on their policies and practices and see that how, they can address some of the challenges that we were discussing, and also the context in which we are operating. Just to let you know that these women's empowerment principles is a voluntary commitment by the CEO of the company. It doesn't come with any mandatory requirement, not for reporting or not for implementation. But what we do expect that once the company or a leader has committed to women's empowerment principles, they will go ahead in creating the processes in their businesses to make sure that these are implemented. So if you would look at the first, second, and third principle, and I'll go in details into this, but these 3 principles essentially talks about the workplace, the processes that are operated at the workplace and how they can be made gender responsive. The next 2 principles, which is principle 4 and principle 5, is really about looking at your marketplace intervention, and principle 6 is really about the community initiatives that the company undertakes. And principle 7 is about measuring and reporting the performance on these principles. Uh, what these principles also essentially do is that they give you a value chain approach to women's empowerment. So if you would look at all these principles, like I said, that it runs from leadership to workplace to marketplace and looking at going down beyond to the community, going down to the community and beyond in terms of measurement and reporting as well. So the first principle, which is about gender equal corporate leadership. Now, this principle essentially talks about the commitment at the highest level, that is at the level of CEO, to make sure that gender is integrated into all its business policies and practices. It essentially means that this agenda is driven at the community at the highest level. I'm so sorry for the background noise. Excuse me for that, but this essentially says that if a leader or if a CEO commits to this agenda, then it is driven down to the lowest level, and that is what we intend to do, creating that thought leadership at the company level to make sure that that gender is integrated into the tracking or into the performance management of all the teams that are working in businesses. It also means that that the CEO is setting gender goals and targets throughout the business processes and trying to engage with internal and external stakeholders to really drive this agenda. Now, principle 2 is about creating gender equality in the workplace. Now, this is about creating equality not in terms of opportunities, but also in terms of pay and benefits, to really see that how your recruitment, retention, and promotion policies are not creating any stereotypes that are limiting women's participation in the in the company. Now, it also talks about flexible work policies and about the child and dependent care programs. The third principle is about employee health and safety, where we are really talking about that how you are creating safe working conditions for women. It also talks about how to address the violence and sexual harassment at workplace, and also the training of your staff members to also acknowledge that the violence is really something which can disrupt the productive potential of an employee. So, for example, is your HR, trained enough or conscious enough to recognize that the violence that a woman has faced, or an employee, a women employee that has faced violence at home, impacts is impacted by that violence at office, because her productivity gets affected. So does your HR has that sense of assessing that kind of situation, um, to really make sure that all these instances or all these cases do not affect the well-being of the employee, and that it doesn't affect activity. Principle 4 is about education and training for women. So you are creating such opportunities in your businesses for skill development, for building the capacities of women to move on in their career ladder. Principle 5 is really about enterprise and supply chain development. So this is principle talks about your marketplace intervention. So when you are interacting with your vendors, when you are interacting with your suppliers, when you are integrating them as part of your businesses, how conscious you are in also making sure that you reach out to women-owned businesses as well. You make sure that that your procurement policies or your distribution policies make sure that women-owned businesses are part of that value chain. And also, when you brand about your businesses, when you market your products and services, you are not consciously creating stereotypes, you are not promoting such advertisements that are negatively affecting women's representation, that are negatively affecting women's positive role modeling within the in the advertising and branding of your products and services. And principle 6 is really about looking at the community advocacy initiative. So when you are investing, say for example through CSR, how are you ensuring that you are also addressing structural constraints, the constraints that really limit women to take active participation in the labor force or workforce? So for example, the issues of violence, the issues of safety and security, the issues of transportation, issues of skills, etc. So how conscious you are in ensuring that gender is integrated in your community initiatives. And principle 7 is about measurement and reporting. So like I said, that we do not anticipate any company to report us back. But what we do expect is that when you are preparing, say for example, your business responsibility reports or business sustainability reports, then you make sure that you are also reporting on some of the indicators that how you're promoting gender equality within your organization. What does the web's journey entail? Now, the web's journey entails 5 steps. One is, of course, learning about the women's empowerment principles. I gave you a very brief background about these principles, but happy to go in details within each of the principles to really see that how, what does it entails, and what are the indicators that really we are tracking. Number 2 is signing women's empowerment principles. Like I said, it is just a voluntary commitment by a CEO. Globally, there are 3,800 companies that have signed women's empowerment principles. In India, we are 170 companies that have signed, and these include some of the well-known companies as well, including Tata's. We have Shriram Group of companies, Adani's, Vedanta. We do have Bridgestone, Capgemini, etc. A lot of companies, Tech Mahindra, known ones and the lesser known ones as well. Now, in terms of the next steps, once we have signed the women's empowerment principles, we expect the companies to take something called gender gap analysis tool. Now, this tool again is an online tool which is anonymous. So you can take this tool and you will get to know that where you stand in terms of your policies and practices vis-a-vis the 7 empowerment principles. And this tool will give data only to you. Even at UN Women, we are at UN Women, we are unable to we don't see the data at the individual company level. We see the data at the aggregate level. So you would be able to get a sense where you stand, and then what we do is that we come in and support you in really developing action plans around the areas that you find need further strengthening, and come and support your personnel on training and capacity building to really go ahead and implementing the women's empowerment principles. The next step is, of course, activating the women's empowerment principles by really implementing those, and finally sustaining. So you make sure that there are policies, within your companies, and there are accountability mechanisms that have been included in your policies to really check how the principles are being implemented. Like I said, that we have a lot of companies that have signed women's empowerment principles. These are some of the quote cards of the CEOs that have committed to women's empowerment principles. But what we really do, once the company has signed women's empowerment principles, we really leverage the thought leadership. We want to showcase that, okay, these are the gender champions who have really committed and come out in public to demonstrate their thought leadership on promoting gender equality and women's empowerment in the businesses. What it gives is what it leads is, of course, one, creating the larger momentum in the industry itself. Your public commitment would also influence your peers. Your public commitment would also showcase your thought leadership. And then what we do is that we really want to create, identify you as a champion, as an influencer, at not only at the India level, but also at our regional social media platforms, as well as the global media platforms. Yeah, so this I've already covered. Again, what would you get if you join the WEBS community? Of course, when you join the WEBS community, you're part of a global network of more than 3,800 companies, like-minded companies that have committed to women's empowerment principles. You get visibility, your company gets visibility across various social media platforms at local level, regional level, and the global level. Now you get to exchange and best practices with other like-minded companies. We, of course, carry out the trainings for you to really help you implement these principles. You get access to various tools that we have created, such as gender assessment, action planning, etc. And also get an opportunity to work with us and co-create the programs. So for example, the Second Chance Education Program, right? So you can also partner with Second Chance Education Program to really implement some of the initiatives that I just talked about. Yeah, so I'll stop here, and I'm so sorry for all the disturbance and the background noise that came free with me with this presentation. But I hope that you enjoyed this, and happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Sohila ji. So there is a request I can see in the chat window. If you can, Rajiv ji was asking if you can share the link so that he can share with his team, please.
Sohela, there is a file option in the chat. If you could just upload the presentation over here only, that is what he wants.
Otherwise, I'll forward to everyone. I'll take it from Dhananjay ji and forward to everyone.
Thank you.
I'll do it.
Thank you, Sohila ji. So, friends, since all senior leaders are here, we would like to take their inputs, their guidance, and we would like to learn from their wisdom, which is the core of the discussions for which all of us are here together. So, on behalf of UN Women and NHRD, may I humbly request Amrish Tiwari ji to moderate the session and to lead the session. So over to Amrish Tiwari ji, please.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Dhananjay ji. I would like to welcome UN Women team and NHRDN team and the tourism industry stakeholder led by His Highness Maharaja of Jodhpur Babji, Dr. Subhash Goyal ji, Mr. Rajiv Kohli, Sharat Lenka from IIT Bhubaneswar, Mr. Anup Nair, Dr. Kaulesh Kumar from Bihar, Mr. P.P. Khanna, EDI2I President, Bhim Singh ji from Rajasthan Tourism. He's known as, the lots of contribution in Rajasthan. J.K. Mohanty ji from Odisha from Swasthya Group. Assis, CEO of Faith. Mr. Pranav Sharkar, he's the leading association IATO's president. Farooq from Udaipur. And Aditi and lots of tourism stakeholders are here. I just gone through those names. So UN Women is starting a program on a women entrepreneurship, and tourism is the only industry. I was going through your statistics where women participation is much higher as compared to the industry average. I think we have somewhere around 40% we employ the women in our workforce. And when you hear from the industry level, you will be able to know more. And there are lots of opportunities where a tourism product can be developed in and around the women entrepreneurship. Few of the case studies will be presented to you as well. Like we have near uh, as Babji will tell you, or the Ocean Village and other places in and around Jodhi, which is very popular villages for the tourists to go in, is run and driven by the women's entrepreneurship. And there are lots of scope where develop the whole economy. So tourism is the only area which develop the entire GDP of the entire village or the centers were developed. I'm happy to inform that UN Women has taken 4 states like the Bihar, Maharashtra, Odisha, and Rajasthan in the first stage. And they identified lots of villages where tourism potential can be designed and work, which industry leader will share. And like in Bihar, they identified the district like the Gaya, Kishanganj, Muzaffarpur to develop the tourism destination. Maharashtra, they have Jalgaon, Bhusaval, Khargam,
Jalgaon, Nandurbar, and Mumbai,
Mumbai.
right? Ji.
Odisha, I think Mayurbhanj, Raizada, and Dhenkanal.
Okay.
Rajasthan, the Jaisalmer, Barnar, Chittorgarh. Those are the primary state, but you all are free to give your suggestions in case you wanted to see the potential which is having other place where a woman, keeping the woman entrepreneur in mind, we can develop the whole tourism product. So keeping this thing in mind, I wanted to hear more from all the industry leader. And if I can start with His Highness Maharaja of Jodhpur, Babji, if you can just enlighten us, and then we'll slowly, I'll take on the industry head entire those who are joining. So one by one, we'll take on everyone. So over to you, Babji. You need to
Thank you,
unmute
Amrishi.
yourself.
Thank you, Amrishi. And welcome to everybody. It's a pleasure to meet the leaders of tourism, Goel Saab, Rajiv ji, and all other colleagues. And I'm grateful to the women, UN Women, and the National HRD Women organizations for giving me this opportunity to share some thoughts with you. I'll just begin with possibly some of my own experiences and how through our work, whether it's in tourism, whether it's in the cultural sphere, whether it's in education, we have been able to integrate a women's program. I think first and foremost, education is the crux. We have to start at the bottom. And not only start at the bottom, we have to increase the base, which means reaching out to rural areas. So that's something that we're doing in two spheres through my NGO activities and through the Indian Heritage Hotel Association, where most of our hotels are in rural areas. And that actually brings opportunities to people in rural places for employment, not just men, but also women. And particularly in the entertainment field, they may not be that highly educated, but they have their local culture and skills, whether it's in entertainment or whether it's in craft, cuisine. These are areas where local women can be employed. At the same time, as I said, we need to, we started some hostels now in around Jodhpur, where we are taking only women from rural areas and educating them up to class 12 when they go to the local schools nearby. But the hostel gives them tuition and instructions in various things. And so that again, it creates in them a desire to move forward. And what we found we also have a upmarket girls' school in Jodhpur, in the Rajmata Krishna Kumari Girls' School, which actually recently in education world was ranked as the first in its category in Rajasthan and third in India. So also those girls, they come, most of them from local people in Jodhpur, small businesses. And I've seen a big change, not only in the girls, but through the girls and their parents. Early on, the parents would not take much interest in the education. but it's the girls' development that's forced the parents to take more interest in them. And that has been a very good revelation. Girls also, once they get educated, they are able to assert themselves at home and avoid early marriages, child marriages, which happens a lot in Rajasthan, particularly in rural areas, and also continue to work. And now the concept of women working even after marriage is gradually getting accepted in Rajasthan. Rajasthan's come a long way in terms of literacy in women. We were ranked very low at one time, but over a period, women's literacy has improved. The other experience I've had is through our NGOs. We have an NGO called Jal Bhagirathi Foundation, which works on traditional methods of water harvesting. And there again, we form these village committees and insist that a certain number of women should be there. And now it's good to see a lot of, as part of the Panchayat program, women sarpanches. And if they're there, they're always part of the program. And so the women come forward and they're the ones who actually motivate the men in many ways. And we've also found, this is not just myself, but through other NGOs I've discovered, that when you create women's self-help groups and put them into small enterprises and arrange microfinance for them, it works very successfully. And you'll be surprised to hear that the most successful self-help groups are all women groups. They're the ones that work. And the men's groups don't work. And it's also quite interesting to know that even in the women's group, if you have one man, it won't work. So that's quite interesting to have learned that. In India, I think we have great extremes. And this is what we need to bridge that gap. It's not that women don't get to top positions. I think we as a country are a shining example of having women in every possible position, from the president to the prime minister, to a number of chief ministers, state ministers, central ministers, in the administrative services, and corporate. Women corporate leaders are international today in America, Europe, of course, and in India too. So women have risen. We're now having women in the armed forces and air force also. But we need to create, we have to include, we have to enlarge that base, get them educated, and get them into skills. The government skill development program, again, is a very good program. I'm on that committee. And so getting women out, changing attitudes is the most important. We have also experience in the craft and through tourism. From the hotel, people go to the Mehrangarh Museum. These are the two major activities and the two major buildings in Jodhpur, which everybody comes to. And in the hotels, we of course employed women. We're linked with the Taj Group. The Taj Group just recently run a program called Diva. Diva is diversity, including women at HCL. Now, this program, a 6-month incentive program to induct women in hotels, to bring women participation to 50% of the workforce. That's the aim of the program. We've also had a woman GM in the palace, and in fact now she's gone to GM at the Taj in Bombay. So there is scope, but we have to provide the opportunities. I think that's the most important point I need to make. In the craft field also, in the cultural and craft field, women can play a very big role. We have some museum shops in the fort, and we have made it a point to appoint the daughters of the staff. And there again, they've proved very successful and they have also continued, expressed desire to continue working after marriage. And the parents have also accepted that. So these are some examples I thought I would share with you. Again, emphasizing very strongly on education and training, post-education training, and showing the way, opening the doors to women, girls, to show them what the possibilities are, to encourage them, enhance that desire in them, and change local set established views, which we have a lot of in India, unfortunately. But I think things are changing, and women are being heard more. But I think we should listen even more, not just listen more, provide them with more opportunities. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Babji. Thank you, Babji. And you very clearly focus on the training and skill development at grassroots level and identifying the skill and craft, especially for the women, and to bring them into tourism and force. And thank you very much for sharing your ideas. May I now ask Dr. Shubhas?
I just want to
Yes,
one
sir.
more
Yes.
one
Yes, sir.
very important. Also, we're talking about creating facilities for women, and one of the things we learned in our Jal Bhagirathi Foundation, where we're providing water to schools, is that actually the girls stop going to school because they have no toilets. And if they have toilets, they don't work, or they are joint toilets, so they drop out. So what we've done is we've created roof water harvesting and created tankas and segregated the girls and boys toilets and made little groups of the boys and girls themselves maintaining these tankas and the toilets, and this has been proved very successful. So little things do make a big difference and also getting girls from place A to B after a certain age in rural areas. The families don't feel secure, so we have to provide facilities for the safe from to the nearest school. These are little things I think we all need to consider. I thought I just said that.
Thank you, sir. I also like to welcome Mr. Pranav Sarkar, President IATO, who joined, and Captain Shadesh Kumar from the Adventure Tour Operators Head President, who also joined in the meantime. Thank you, sir. And we look forward to have your views as well. May I request Dr. Subhas Goyal, Honorary Secretary, Faith, in the former President IATO, to give his views on this, on the various tourism project for the women. Dr. Goyal, please.
Thank you very much, Amresh, for giving me this opportunity. I totally agree with Maharaj Gaj Singh Ji. And if all the erstwhile rulers have worked the way Maharaj Gaj Singh Ji is working, then I think the condition of India would be much better. I think I'm not saying this because you're there in front of me, but I remember when we had our IATO convention in Jodhpur, the love and affection and respect from the heart people had for you is because you have, and your family has been a benevolent, ruler, and you have ruled people's hearts. That is the most important. Physically ruling people by force is not important, and that is mainly responsible for the girls' education, which you focused on, which was, took the leadership role in Rajasthan. Having said that, and having agree with you that President, Prime Minister, and judges and Army, Air Force women have been there, but unfortunately, we have a lot to do. You see, if you see the statistics in G20, about 46.4 people, 4% women are there in travel and tourism. But if you compare it with in India, you see, it is unfortunate that I'm talking about the last year figures, was only about 12.1%. And the lowest was in Turkey and Saudi Arabia, which is 8.5 and 7.9. Whereas in countries like Mexico, it is 50.8, South Korea 53.3, South Africa 53, even China 43% of women in travel and tourism are women. So you see, the success of the number of tourist arrivals depends on the number of women who are involved in the travel and tourism industry, because by nature, God has made women. I mean, I always say that whatever a man can do, a woman can do better. And God has given them those soft skills which are needed in the travel and tourism industry. Uh, as it is rightly said, behind the success of every man, there's a woman, and behind the failure on the writer side is more than one. So, friends, I'm giving you an example of my company. You know, I am the chairman, but my managing director, both my directors, director of business development and director and CEO, are women. Our HR head is a woman, and our vice president, who has 10 airline sales, who has about 10 airline managers working under her or along with her, is a woman. And I think a huge percentage in our company, Stick Travel Group, are women. The reason is that, you see, through we are a 47-year-old company, and we have realized that particularly in the hospitality industry, in the travel and tourism industry, these soft skills that are needed are there with women. And in India particularly, you know, although most of the power, according to the Hindu philosophy, are with women, but the ground reality is different. The goddess of wealth, Lakshmi, is a woman. The, Saraswati, goddess of education, is a woman. Durga, the goddess of power, is a woman. And, so many, the role of women. But unfortunately, in the day-to-day life, if you see the statistics of the employment, which is there in India, I think we need a lot to do. And this change can come about, I've said this earlier also, that based on the population of the country. You see, suppose in India there are 46% women, I'm just giving a hypothetical example, and 54% men. So the parliamentary seats and in the election, the same division should be made. If in a particular constituency, the women are, the ratio has to be equal. You see, in the, whether it is panchayat, whether it's the local council elections, or it is the, assembly elections, or the parliament elections. So unless we do this, you see, the transformation will not come. By giving some key positions to women, yes, it does inspire other women. And secondly, you see, what we have also found, that in our history, a lot of women have played a very important role, like Jhansi Ki Rani. She's an inspiration to a lot of women. But what are the memorials of Jhansi Ki Rani in the city of Delhi, the capital of India, or in Mumbai, or, so we have to, like it is rightly said, the lives of great men and women tell us that we can also make our lives sublime. So if you highlight the achievements of the women, and in the history books, in the curriculum, I think that will go a long way, at least for the succeeding generation, that women will get equal representation. I think I compliment Amrish ji for having organized this, and the UN agencies which are involved in women empowerment. And I will definitely take the recording, because the principles, the 7 principles which you talked about, I think as a company we do follow those principles, but I would like them to be, put up at the reception area of my office, along with the motto of the company, so that anyone who visits the office, and I think we in the travel and tourism industry should do that, that anyone who visits our office should know that, yes, this is an organization which not only is giving equal representation, but also inspiring others to do so. So thank you very much. I don't want to take more time. We have, Dada, President of IATO. We have Captain Sudesh Kumar. We have Mr. Kohli. We have a lot of other leaders who are here from the tourism industry. And I would love to listen to them more. And thank you once again, Amrish, for giving me the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Goyal. Thank you very much. And next, Mr. Kohli, who was a former global society for excellence, and when the society, the incentive happens, and the whole CSR work is also done. And Rajiv, as you know, the
Did we lose Amresh or did I lose everyone?
No, we can hear you. I
Yeah,
think
we can hear
Mr.
you.
Amrish.
Yes.
Okay. Was he asking me to speak?
Yeah. He was
Yes, Rajiv ji.
Okay, good. Well, I must say I found that presentation to be very interesting, and I do want it to share with my team as well. It's a subject I not very close to in some ways, because I don't see a disparity between men and women, especially in my family, especially in my organization. I am married to someone who is infinitely more educated than I am, and she reminds me that very often. But I do recognize there is a larger problem. Now, I take a very different approach to issues like this. You can be very, I want to make it a very large social issue. I want to change the world. Or rather, I would drill down a little deeper and see how can we actually make a difference in the organizations we represent and the industry we represent. We are not going to be able to bring out major nationwide social change with the 30, 40 of us here, but it's a start of doing something within our industry. I was taken aback by the presentation because there's a lot of stuff I wasn't probably aware of. And I think that's where is your number one challenge and flaw, if I may say, that you haven't educated tourism industry in general. Suhaila mentioned there are about 180 organizations in the country who signed up, and she mentioned some names. I find it's very easy to get large companies, large organizations to sign things like this. It's a corporate mandate, it's a CSR, it looks great in the press, but the proof in the pudding is getting the smaller, the SME segment to buy in, because that's at the end of the day where bulk of employment is in this country, where we may be dominated by revenue by larger companies, but we are mostly dominated by the mid to smaller segment in terms of the employment base. So I would recommend not only you do this presentation again for the various associations within tourism. You have 5 association leaders on this call themselves, but I would also recommend you're doing a very quick, sharp 5-minute YouTube video, allowing us to circulate it within our groups, within our fraternities. All the 5 presidents on this call have WhatsApp groups with their members, and that's a quick way to get some of the messaging out there. I think there are 2 parts to this conversation. One is, of course, creating opportunities for women within tourism. But second, which I think is equally, if not more important, is building respect for women within our workplace. Now, in my company, about 30-35% of my white collar workers are female. That has been going up over the years. There has been a conscious effort to hire. Of course, I believe on hiring on merit, not gender alone. It should work both ways. But we need to instill within our membership how should they treat a woman employee? You'd be surprised, well, maybe not surprised, but I'm sometimes surprised at some of the issues women employees go through in their various organizations. When I am interviewing new hirees, I hear some of the stories. We in my company have all the policies put down that protect a female employee, and we do take them very, very seriously. And I know 99% of my industry doesn't have that checks and balances, which we need to educate people about. So creating opportunities within the, I can talk for the inbound tourism segment. I mean, we have a lot of companies which are owned by women and a lot of couples running companies. So there is already a base that might be less apparent than what is statistically checked. So as I said, I would look at two different approaches on that. When I am applying for tenders with my larger American partners, there's something that the US does. They, especially for companies that do some government work over there, but are you a minority-owned business? You get 5 points. Are you a woman-owned business? You get 5 points. Maybe within the tourism industry, if not the larger government as yet. I mean, I don't know if government does that on other things, but there could be a little advantage the same way that we do it to backward classes in India. Perhaps it's time to do it for women-owned enterprises, even if it's a majority-owned enterprise for that. I think one of the biggest issues we have in tourism, which we as tourism stakeholders are the only ones who can address, is educating public, educating parents, educating families on what tourism jobs are all about, how it is safe for women to join, and how it is not demeaning. Because unfortunately, we still work in a country where for most young people, they join tourism because they didn't get into any better college or they didn't get any other serious opportunity. I will take out the hospitality industry out of this because that is a more technical skill. I will take out maybe aviation out of this because being a flight attendant is very fashionable. But for the most of it, and my friends here may agree or disagree with this, tourism is a secondary option. It is not the most desirable path for families to send their children to, especially now in a COVID era. And I think there is an opportunity for us to educate families that this is a great industry because it allows certain amount of flexibility, because we recognize women are torn between their duties at home and duties at work. No matter how much we may like it or dislike it, or how much we may say that men should do equal work in the kitchen, it is a reality of our culture and our life. But how can we pivot that slightly to say tourism is a great place to work? I mean, quite frankly, I've told my head of human resources, who we call people's people, who is a woman, I prefer women in certain roles because I think integrity is better. I mean, that's a very harsh generalization to make, but then that's my personal experience. Yeah, so I think this was a great conversation. I think the opportunities are truly tremendous out there. For me, it opened my eyes a little bit, and I as I said, educate our industry on what can we do, how can we get engaged. You have 180 organizations covered so far between the 5 association leaders here. That could go up by another 200, 300 in 60 days very easily. Educate families as an industry. What can we do for women? Why it's a great opportunity, and why those softer skills that, again, to generalize, perhaps women are better suited to tourism, because globally the tourism industry is more female dominated than male, whereas in India it is the reverse. But thanks, Amresh, for having me. I thought that was a very interesting conversation, and look forward to hearing everybody else.
Thank you, Rajiv. Thank you, Rajiv, for sharing your thought in engaging the UN Women and the WP principle in the tourism industry. I think that would be a great idea to have the training. And we have Mr. Pranab Sarkar, who is the President, Indian Association of Tour Operator, the Inbound Tour Operator Association. May I request Mr. Sarkar to please share your views how tourism project can be taken, which can be beneficial both. And over to you, Mr. Sarkar. Dada, unmute yourself, please.
Yeah. Thank you, Amresh. Thank you very much, and good morning to all. And I'm happy to be part of your this initiative, UN initiative, and appreciate the presentation given in the morning, which was quite informative. And it is good that we are all joining this kind of initiative. And women empowerment is required at this stage as far as India is concerned. When I travel abroad, I think mostly the tour operators, travel agents we meet are all the female officers and executives and owners and CEOs we keep meeting. And even if you go to the international exhibitions, you will find most of them are roaming around, are all female executive. But in India, per se, if you look at the percentage is quite low, as rightly indicated by Dr. Goel and Rajiv. It is a requirement that India is needed to uh, give some upskill education to the women empowerment. It is tourism is as rightly mentioned, is not a primary industry, it is a secondary industry if you look at. And I find that it does not require as much as skill that some other industry may need. Suppose you are a software engineer, you need to know the software, but in tourism it can be accommodated in any field wherever you are good. And mostly importantly, in cities like we are staying there, we need the educated female executives, educated female workers, who can really help us. But in hospitality industry it is also not so important, but some skilling is very important. Therefore I will emphasize on that in tourism skilling. If women empowerment can be given some advantage, that all segment of women, whether very well educated or normal educated or school pass, they should all be given the skill training in tourism as per their caliber. It will be a very great idea, and some opportunity, some special incentive by the government. If you employ female staff, there is some deduction in taxes or something is given. I'm sure this is going to help us a lot. And with the certification in skilling, that will also give lot of job opportunities. And the women are not looking in India. If you look at, women are not looking, majority of them are not looking at the career base where they will be settling. They will look for a job, because after marriage the girl child is moving out of their home, going to different cities. So they need to have those kind of job opportunities wherever they are located next. So therefore it is important that some kind of skill training is given that suits them, and take a job in that new city. So therefore it is important not only in the rural India but also in urban India, that they need to train up themselves. If UN can give some guidelines that India, that skilling activities is possible, certification is given, I think that will give a lot of opportunities to the women workers to come in this industry. And hospitality industry already having this facility, and most of the hotel management institutes are full of girls. They are trying to educate themselves in hospitality industry, and this is a quick job, and that can give a settlement in any cities. So therefore we need that in tour operators case also. It is important, though earlier the ticketing was a big job opportunity for the female staff in our trade. But now ticketing is also getting diminishing, and slowly it is changing its course. So therefore online companies and call centers, they are all coming up with this kind of job. Those kind of specific training can really enhance the job opportunities. And if this initiative can uplift the present women force to come and join this industry, they will be benefited. Let us think on that. And Also, we should support with the safety and security while they're working with us, and we should give them full assurances. I remember in my company, whenever there is a female staff, they used to come. First of all, travel agency does not give them a very big, you know, idea that it is a good company or something. I have seen parents or brothers accompanying along with them for the interviews. So those were the days before. Now the things are changing with the support and education. I think it has changed, and now people and girls and ladies, they come of their own for interviews and take a call and see, always see and check that how many female workers are already there to feel the comfort in the organization. And we have already following the government policy of safety for the women. Therefore, in our company, about 25% female staff is working in our company. So, with this, I would like to encourage, and the training and skilling is more important, and some incentive by the government to give the encouragement joining this industry to the female worker will be added advantage. With this, I say thank you, and if need be, I can come back again. Thank you, Amresh. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dada. We have Captain Suresh Kumar with us, who head the Adventure Tour Operator Association of India. And adventure operators, most of the camps, resort, and activity zone is the villages or the mountains, and where the huge opportunity for the women leadership in the maybe in the track and the hospitality. And over to you, Captain, how you look into this, what kind of villages need to be adopted and develop.
Well, good morning, my friends. I missed the initial presentation of Amresh regarding the 7 points. Sorry? You said something, Amresh?
No, sir, no, sir. Go on, go.
Yeah, please go ahead. We can. We would love to listen to you, Captain. Please.
Thank you. Well, thank you for the invite. You know, I was sitting and thinking and listening to you, and I realized how unfair we have been to women ourselves. In my association, Adventure Tour Operation of India, we have no women and EC members. We used to have Rani Puri for many years, and Indra Kaul. Then after recently, we have none. And I was looking at it. The ATOI also doesn't have any women member EC. I hope I'm wrong. But I never seen any woman EC member from ATOI. I think first of all, I'm going to assure this audience that today itself I'm going to put. We have an election in the next month. I will ensure that at least one or two women member join our EC, and we ensure that they become part of the EC, because it's very important that we must have them. And I hope that ATOI also will, ATO will also find at least one or two. If nobody comes forward, please go up them. I think for sure my association will definitely do that. You know, but let me explain to you the questions you have asked about the labor force in the mountains, especially in the adventure activity. I was looking at the overall picture. There are hardly any adventure guides available in this country, women guide available in this country. None. What are the reasons are, but they're not really. All of them are. However, there are many adventure. There are many women porters available in the mountain area, especially in the Darjeeling area, but none in Garhwal, none in Ladakh, none. And therefore, I think let's not focus on that part of it. Only thing I would like to say to you that we have to encourage women to join the adventure tourism facilities. For example, a lot of young people are going for trekking in the Himalayas. We must encourage them for trekking sports to go back, come to the adventure. So what I'm going to suggest to you would be my idea. Another second step I thought I must tell you is that in our association, so far I have not done it, but I will insist to my members to accept it, a special discount to all the associations who are owned by a woman. We'll also give a special discount to all the women. I'll get it done in I Am Indian Mountain Foundation also, that any woman entrepreneur who wants to develop training in first aid, any courses, they get a special discount because they're women. So we need to encourage women power in this country to do it. And therefore, three things I've just mentioned to you, I will ensure that they're implemented within specific time. Thank you, Amresh, for giving me a chance to remind me that I have to wake up and do all this. Coming to our women employment in these agencies, it is all depends on situation. For example, my wife runs an export company. She has 90 employees, 90% employees are women. For example, Shikha, we have about 20% employees women. Again, we're looking for guides, women guides, because many women's school, girls' school, they insist that they should have a women guide along with it, and we have a huge problem in finding the good guides. Maybe today is a nice wake column which you've given us. Will be wake up now and see that we go do something important in this particular field, and see that we have many more young ladies joining our association, young ladies joining our profession, and we'll encourage them to our best capacity. Thank you, Amresh. Thank you.
Uh, Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And may I request, we are having with us Mr. P.P. Khanna, who head the Domestic Tour Operator Association of India, and that is the largest body for the promoting the domestic tourism in the country. And their member are all across India and from each villages to everywhere. Mr. PP, if you can add something on this, how women empowerment and plus the tourism development can take both hands in hand. Over to you, PP.
Thank you, Amresh, for organizing this really webinar for the women empowerment. I totally agree that women are the pillars of our society. And when women are empowered, our businesses, our economy, and all the revenue generations are empowered. And we have to think that we can drive the equality in gender. That's the most important thing. And our businesses shall have better performance and productivity if we have women along with us working with the safe conditions and secure conditions. That is must. And we have to collaborate in business, leaving all the barriers, not thinking that only men can work in our tourism and hospital industry. Today, if you see, a lot of women are very good chefs. They have been awarded also. And if you really take more than, they are really expanding their wings in the entrepreneur horizons and entering into business areas such as if you see the in the terms of the tourism and hospitality, see in the aviation now a lot of the captains in Air India and other airlines, they are the captains, they are flying, and almost if you see that mostly the hostesses are in the aircraft and less, the pursuers are there. So a lot of IPS officers are there, IS women are there, and all these things are really empowering us, Indian, that actually woman has a power and it is our Shakti. So taking into consideration, but the government of India under the MSME schemes are taking different schemes for the industries for women, sparking their talent and they are building their own identity. And almost 1.40 lakhs, I was reading somewhere, projects have been set up by the women entrepreneurs under Prime Minister's Employment Generation Program, PMEGP program, and it is almost 30% of the total programs with the projects we have been done by the women, and they have been given the subsidy of 25 to 30% for this project. Unfortunately, in the tourism and hospitality sectors, what subsidy government is giving to us or to the women. There are a lot of women which are working in the tourism and hospitality industries. Has ever thought by the government of India that under at least under the embassy ME schemes, they can give some kind of a assistance for the women to uplift the women in the business. Though government of India has taken a lot of other projects for the women like Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. Now Beti Bachao is good, but have you ever thought that Beti Padhao also in the tourism and hospitality industry? They have never given any kind of assistance or any programs for the women to uplift them, and also Bharatiya Mahila Business Bank Loan. Now, Mahila Bank Loan is there, but in the tourism industry or the hospitality industry, have they ever given any kind of a extra to uplift the women in the giving the business loans to them? So while the government is concerned for the uplift of the women, we too need to become, aware of their rights and their schemes, their benefits, how they can really achieve overall empowerment. That is the need of an hour. A lot of NGOs are also working for the empowerment of the women. And like Captain said, let me also explain that when I taken over as a president in 2016, 4 years before, that was my first, the requirement that at least one woman should be our EC member, managing committee member. And I really went to different women, and at last I was able to agree with one woman to come in our MC group, and by the grace of the God, now she is today in our MC group, also in the EC group, and working very hard. And she has done a lot of projects for the women empowerment, like in the blind, she has gone to blind school, the leprosy, and also breast cancer detect camp she has done. So these are the things which are really required in our today's date for the women empowerment. And after that, in our association also, now we thought to do something else for the Pan India. We have almost 11 chapters all over Pan India, and we thought to do something for the women empowerment. And our team decided to appoint Lady Entrepreneur Officer (LEO) in all the chapters. So we have almost 11 LEO officers in our all the chapters in our association, and they are working there a lot of the CSC programs for their own states. And these are the things which exactly we want for the women empowerment in our association. And by the grace of the God, all this, and by the all the assistance from our members also, these women, these all our lady officers are working very well in all the states. So Pan India, we as an association are working very hard to promote and to for the women empowerment. That is the best thing. Apart from that, there are a lot of things to be done in the tourism and hospitality industry, like in the Rajasthan, Babji is there. And there is a lot of art and craft in Rajasthan. But have ever thought that how to expose this art, and which women are working, like I had gone to Mr. Mohanty is also there, and I'm thankful to him that he had united us in Bhubaneswar. And on the way to Chilka Lake, we had gone. There is a village where there are a lot of women are working the craft work. That is the best thing. But who has come forward to expose the women for their craft in Odisha? That is most important to understand all of us. So for the tourism and hospitality industry, we are doing our best for the empowerment, but it is required that the government has also had to think about that. Under the different schemes, they are doing it for the women empowerment, and this is exactly it's my view. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pepi. Thank you very much for sharing your thought. And ladies and gentlemen, till now we discussed the policy making decision, and let's now discuss the ground realities. What is happening in the ground? How our leadership is taking these initiatives at the village level, at the rural level, at the district level, and how they are empowering the women in the tourism industry, and what are the other scope. So now I am taking with the industry expert who are working on the ground. And in this first is Dr. J.K. Mohanty. He is the CMD for the Swasti Group of Hotel, which is the largest hotel chain in the Odisha. He runs lots of NGOs and work. And Dr. Mohanty is working lots of area in the tourism, and especially in the tribal area and the village area as well. Recently, he developed the whole Chilka Lake project. So I would like to to you to have your ideas cities where we can develop the tourism potential. Mr. Mohanty, we want to listen to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Amrish. for inviting me to this enlightened forum. And this is very enlightening. This talk about empowering women, I think, is a subject which is very close to my heart. And I would like to share my experience, ground reality here. I opened a resort at Chilka Lake, which is about 90 minutes drive from here. And it was in the interior of a village. And when I purchased the land, the villagers thought this man is a nut. Why is he purchasing land here? And I purchased land there. And after that, I started construction of a resort near the Pathara village. First thing the villagers did was to obstruct progress there. They said if this company comes something, they will take away something from our village or something. But later on, when I sat with them, they understood. And that was a village where most of the people were fishermen, the fishermen's community. And the village women were doing nothing. The men were going out fishing, women were sitting at home. And when I started construction, most of the females, they started becoming construction workers there. And I did take them for construction work. And after I opened up the resort, I thought, why not train them up to work in the resort? And we have a hotel management institute called Swasti Institute of Management and Social Studies. So we engaged some of our faculties to train up these ladies, women of the village. And today, at least 100 of these females are working in the resort. And they have become so smart that they speak and do things much more cleaner, efficiently, and integrity-wise, they're superior to others. And I'm very happy and to have taken them. And almost one lady from every family in the village is today employed in the resort. This is my practical experience, what I have there. And I find these women are more honest. And when they do the cleaning of rooms on the corridors or anything, they do it very with accuracy and with a lot of patience. And when they see foreigners in the resort, when they see, Chilka Lake the resort has become famous in Eastern India within 2 years. Within 2 years, and we do an occupancy of 80 to 90%. Most of the time, weekends, we refuse people. And it is because the success is because I think the credit goes to all these women who are working there. When the resort opened, people were apprehensive. Even my bankers were also apprehensive about what will happen. This resort has opened inside a village. But today the bankers are happy. And I have to expand my business because these people have contributed a lot. My suggestion to the United Nations and the European Union would be to encourage more women into the field of hospitality. You see, you are tying up with companies that engage women. I would suggest tie up with hotel management institutes, the private institutes of hotel management. When we take in students, I think European Union should come in to provide some sort of incentive for girl child. For the females we employ, to attract girls into hotel management institutes is not easy in an interior place in a place like Odisha, where hotels are not very much developed. So if the UN can provide, the European Union also can consider that some incentive should come for I was just talking, you see, in my Institute of Hotel Management, my principal is a female, the secretary of the institute is female, 50% of the staff are female. We have a lot of girl students, but the ratio of girls to boys, girls is around 20% only. To increase, as you say, we see in Thailand and other places, most of the hotels, they have more female workers than men. I think some sort of incentive should come in. This is the time. And in our hotels, we have 4 hotels here operating. In the hotels, we have committees for the welfare committees of women, where they sit monthly and discuss among themselves what else is necessary for our security, for our development, for well-being. I think these committees are also very helpful. I'm thankful to Amrish and the United Nations and European Union for taking up such a subject, which I think is quite enlightening. And I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Mahantiji. And now I would like to call Mr. Anup Nair, who is doing the incentive groups from last 25, 30 years. And he do lots of corporate social responsibility work from his US client to he engaged lots of university students. And Anup, if you can share the story and how we can build upon those stories and make UN Women program more successful and create some new areas for the tourism industry. Anup Nair, please.
Thank you, Amrish. And thank you, Dhananjay, for inviting me. I think, in tourism, we are all involved with the business of tourism. But we live in a country where a large percentage of our population is in rural areas, in villages, and interestingly, even in developed cities that we live in, where we function in, we have a whole lot of villages all around us. I've been in tourism business for 40 years now, and it was after 25 of those years, in 2005, that I felt that I should be involved in some way in giving back to the society in which I belonged in. And as a small company, signing checks and giving donations was something that we kept doing all along in small ways. But I was advised by a friend that the only way you can really get involved and make an impact is to have what we would consider engaged philanthropy. In that pursuit of being involved, I looked around and found this village, a village called Gurgaon, which is in the outskirts of the city, not too far away, just 15 kilometers away from the Millennium Hub that we live in and we work in. I found this little village where, like all other urban villages, there is a government school and there is a health center, etc. But none of it works, and none of it has any quality worth talking about. So we kind of felt that this would be a great way in which we could get involved. And I set up a foundation in 2005, Incentive Foundation, which is today and has been involved with that village, that one village, since then till now. We are with the school system, the government school system, and we have also built a center, which is, needless to say, owned by the village, not by us, but a center where it's called the Incentive Foundation Center for Women. And in this center, we thought we would get involved with what the village needed most, which was, and I still believe strongly, is education. So at that time, the government school had only a facility for girls up to the 10th grade. And if you were in the 11th or 12th grade, then you had to, you had to either get married or stay at home and very soon get married, because there was no other course for these kids. They could not leave the village to study in a school which had 10th and 11th and 12th, sorry, did not have the facility. They could not move to another village because social customs wouldn't permit them to actually move out. So what we did was we set up a tuition system for these girls. And immediately we had about 19 girls who joined our tuition classes. And we taught these kids at the center. And we provided teachers who would teach them and took them through the 11th and 12th grades. And we we got them to write the exam through the National Open School. And we found that the demand was so much, and it was always a challenge, an interesting challenge to discuss with the mothers who kept saying that, look, this is a girl. Why would you want to educate this girl? She's going to get married, paraya dhan, this kind of talk. And there was no need for educating them. But we would spend a lot of time working with the mothers to try and convince them that we do need to see that these kids would be able to stand on their own feet. So we were able to take these girls through the 12th grade. And then, of course, we got even 9 of them to come in through the university system, again, through the open school. And though only 2 eventually graduated, one of them today is actually working and standing on her own feet. The others got married and moved on. But the demand for education is so desperate and so much of a need that when we set up the women's empowerment program in the village, we've got about 18 women right now working there. What we do is we get these women to make things, and we have trained them. We've hired a seamstress from the village who trains them in stitching. We've hired a woman from the village to be the foundation face between the women and us. And my wife works with me on this, and she, in fact, does most of the actual groundwork there in the village. We get these women to make things, and these products that they make, they're able to sell, and when they sell these products, they make a little money to add to their income. Now, I found that being in tourism, I had opportunities which were available to me, and that was bringing my clients to the village, bringing them to get engaged in the village, and getting involved with the women's empowerment program, getting them involved with buying the products. And there's always a story to tell, and this story is an interesting story for the people who come and buy these products. And when they buy these products, they're helping these women make a little more money. And what happens to the money? I mean, we've done a study on all what these women do with the money, and you'd be surprised that every one of them uses that money to help put their kids through a better school system. Because, as you heard from the national education policy now, that 50% of our schools are all government schools, and of that 50%, of the other 50%, a good percentage are private schools which charge 500 to 1,000 rupees a month. So which are considered therefore better schools than even some of the government schools that you have in these rural areas. So a lot of these women, with the little money that they make, they're able to put their kids into these private schools, and so and hence give them a better education, because eventually it is education that's going to change lives, and it is that one focus that we've got to work on. So I really think that this is a facility open to all of us in the tourism industry. We should all look at, there are thousands and thousands of Banwari villages, and you don't have to go very far from the city you're in. All around you, there are villages where you can get involved with engaged philanthropy, which means actually getting involved in seeing how you can contribute to helping make those people in that village better their lives. So if you ask me what my objective is it's eventually perhaps to contribute in some way to help the government school in that village change the focus of the way they're empowering, educating their kids, empower them to teach better. We've found an NGO who's ready for not a huge investment from us to actually come and educate the teachers in teaching the kids in a more effective manner. So I think there are easy ways in which we could get involved and change lives of people. And believe me, it is women who drive the village, because all said and done, you you help a woman in the village in some way to empower her to either financially or through this self-help group that we've set up, either financially or empower them to somehow get involved in the system in the school, so that they can make the school system a little better. Because the problem in the government school is that the children are not educated because the teachers don't show up, the teachers don't teach. But who can change that situation? It's only the mothers who, if you can get them involved to get and become part of the school parents committee, you can make that change. But again, it requires getting the women involved with the initiative that you're taking. So that's perhaps my little 2 bits here, that I think that more and more people in our sector can get involved, and the list of villages are many, and you don't even have to actually go out to the villages. Even in the cities, there are areas where there are government schools which don't function, and there are pockets where empowerment can be given to the women so that they could change the way their little communities function. So it's not, as they say, it's not changing the world, but a small initiative that could perhaps contribute towards making one little area get better. And if more and more people are getting many little areas get better, then I think overall the development would be positive. So greater involvement and greater engaged philanthropy. That's my little comment to this and advice to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Anup. Thank you. Thank you, Anup ji, and sharing the success story. साथियों, अब हमारे साथ हैं from the Buddhism sector, from the International Buddhist Tour Organization Buddhism sector, Dr. Kaulesh Kumar, जो कि Buddhism sector में काम करते हैं. He is based in the Gaya, Bodh Gaya, Rajgir, Nalanda belt, and he's doing lots of work on the Buddhism sector. And Kaulesh, if you can share your ideas how tourism, women empowerment, especially in the Bihar zone where you are working, वहाँ पे कैसे इसमें वृद्धि की जा सकती है और काम किया जा सकता है. डॉक्टर कौलेश कुमार, प्लीज. आप अपने
कौलेश जी अनम्यूट कर लीजिए अपने को, आपका माइक म्यूट है अभी. धन्यवाद.
नमो तस्से भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा सम्बुद्धस्स. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much, sir, especially Amresh sir. सबसे पहले तो सर हम थोड़ा सा हिस्ट्री में जाना चाह रहे हैं ना, कि जैसे सुभाष गोयल जी बताया ना कि कुछ हिस्ट्रियां उसी तरह से भगवान बुद्ध से भी जुड़ा हुआ है, कि भगवान बुद्ध कैसे वो सब कुछ छोड़ छाड़ के यहाँ आए. सुजाता, मैं अभी बोध गया में हूँ, जिसको पुराना उरुवेला कहा जाता था. यहाँ सिर्फ क्योंकि वो उन्होंने ठान लिया था कि हमको अब जीना नहीं है, हमको अब ज्ञान नहीं मिल रहा है, तो इसलिए जो हम खोज रहे हैं, तो हम क्या करें ना कि अब हम अपने शरीर को त्याग देंगे. धीरे धीरे वो खाना बंद कर रहे थे. इसी बीच में सुजाता नाम की एक जो लेडीज थी, वो गाना गाती हुए गुनगुनाती हुए जा रही थी, और उसका मीनिंग निकल रहा था कि बिना का तार को इतना ना टाइट कर दो कि आवाज टूट जाए, और इतना ना ढीला कर दो कि आवाज ही ना निकले. इसी से भगवान बुद्ध ने, वो जो डोंगेश्वरी में मेडिटेशन कर रहे थे, मिडिल पाथ का उनको नॉलेज मिला. कहने का मतलब है कि, और उसके बाद उन्होंने खाना खाया और उसी से बहुत चीज परिवर्तन हो गया. एक मनुष्य कैसे भगवान बनता है, एक लेडीज के कहने का मतलब कि इंस्पायरेशन से, और फिर बताती है सब कुछ, उसको उनको सेवा हुआ करती है, फिर उसके बाद वो होता है. दूसरी चीज सर, जब भगवान बुद्ध वैशाली में थे, तो उस समय कहा गया था उनको कि अगर लेडीज को हम बुद्धिज्म में रखेंगे तो क्या होगा कि ये बुद्धिज्म आगे ग्रो नहीं करेगा, 1000 साल से ज्यादा आगे नहीं जाएगा. लेकिन आनंद बार बार अनुरोध कर रहे थे कि नहीं, विदाउट लेडीज कैन नॉट इम्प्रूव. तो फिर बाद में भगवान बुद्ध ने वैशाली में परमिशन दिया. आज देखिए वर्ल्ड वाइड में बुद्धिज्म है सर. और एक उदाहरण देना चाहते हैं सर कि अशोक की बेटी थी संघमित्रा. जब महेंद्र श्रीलंका गया बोधि ट्री लेकर के, तो बुद्धिज्म ज्यादा सक्सेस नहीं हो रहा था. फिर बाद में बोधि ट्री के साथ में संघमित्रा को भेजा गया, जो फिर लौट के नहीं आई. तो उन्होंने पूरे साउथ ईस्ट एशिया में बुद्धिज्म को प्रचार करके प्रचार की। मेरा कहने का मतलब है कि देखिए बुद्धिज्म लेडीज का कितना इंपॉर्टेंस है। और हम लोगों तो टूरिज्म इंडस्ट्री है सर, इसको हॉस्पिटलिटी इंडस्ट्री भी कह सकते हैं कि हर जगह पे रिसेप्शन और हर जगह पे तो उनको रहना बहुत जरूरी है सर। हमारा बिहार का मतलब होता है ट्रैवलिंग। पुरानों में आप देखिएगा बिहारा, अंग्रेज लोग 1912 में जब इस एरिया में देखे तो उन्होंने देखा कि खाली मोनास्ट्री है इधर, तो इन्होंने कर दिया इसको VIHER, तो विहारा हो गया। लेकिन हजारों हजार साल पहले विहारा मीन्स ट्रैवलिंग होता था सर इस एरिया में। अभी भी यहाँ बहुत सारे लोग जो हैं, जो ग्रामीण पर्यटन जिसको आप कह सकते हैं रूरल टूरिज्म। आप देखिए ना कि इंडिया ने सिलेक्ट किया था 4 विलेज, जिसमें एक नेपुरा है जो नालंदा के पास है सर। तो वो आइकॉनिक विलेज जिसको कहते हैं टूरिज्म विलेज, रूरल टूरिज्म। तो इस एरिया में हर कोई टूरिज्म से जुड़ा हुआ, चाहे वो बैग बनाने वाला हो सर, चाहे वो मूर्तियां बनाने वाला हो, पत्थर कट्टी है सर। वहां पे देखिए कि सर सारे लोग वही है सर कि लेडीज सब अपना उसी से जीविका करते हैं। नालंदा में भी सर बैग्स हैं। नालंदा ने तो कल्चर विलेज भी बना दिया है कि जो भी अगल बगल में जो हैंडीक्राफ्ट या कुछ करते हो तो वो एक जगह पे आवे। मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ टूरिज्म है सर। तो कहने का मतलब यहाँ बहुत ज्यादा स्कोप है सर। इवन कि आप बोध गया में सर, तो अमरीश सर तो हर बार बुद्धिस्ट कॉन्क्लेव में यहाँ आते हैं और ही इज द पार्ट ऑफ बुद्धिस्ट ऑर्गेनाइजर। तो वो देखिए सर, यहाँ पे ऑटो रिक्शा में ही भी खाली लेडीज है सर, और अंग्रेजी में बात करती है। मैडम प्लीज सीट, गिव मी चेंज मैम, लाइक दैट ये सब वर्ड्स बोलती है। और सबसे ज्यादा यहाँ ऑटो जो रिक्शा चली है इलेक्ट्रॉनिक, तो उसमें वो है सर। हमारे पास बहुत सारा स्कोप है सर। और बिना लेडीज के, बिना इससे तो टूरिज्म और कहने का मतलब कहीं पे भी सर्वाइव नहीं करें सर। लेकिन कुछ, क्योंकि हम सेक्रेटरी जनरल है एबीटीओ का, हमारा 25 कंट्री में है एबीटीओ, और 10 से 12 दिसंबर भी हो रहा है। हमने देखा सर, हम एक आइटो कन्वेंशन में थे, तो वहां पे मिनिस्ट्री टूरिज्म कर रहे थे कि ये जो मीटिंग हो रही है यहाँ पे लेडीज कहाँ पे है। 5-6 साल पहले शायद हम वहां थे भुवनेश्वर में, चाहे कहीं पे। तो हमने उसी समय हमने किया कि जो भी हम वेबिनार करें एबीटीओ में, जो भी कीबोर्ड हो, किसी भी तरह का हो, तो वहां पे एक हमारा रिकॉर्ड देख लीजिए एबीटीओ का, वहां पे एक लेडीज एज ए स्पीकर, कन्वेनर या जो भी हो सर, मॉडरेटर, एक लेडी तो हम जरूर रखते हैं। हमारा भी अभी ऑफिस बेरर है, तो इसमें देखिए कि हमने एशिया से 5 लेडीज, जिसमें आप देखिए कि इंडोनेशिया की असीता की प्रेसिडेंट है, यहाँ सीनियर वाइस प्रेसिडेंट एबीटीओ में हॉनररी पोस्ट कर रहा है। कैप्टन साहब भी यही चीज बता रहे थे। तो मेरा कहने का मतलब हम लोग तो भाई उसी पे डिपेंडेंट हैं और सब लोग सपोर्ट करता है। लास्ट में हम 2-3 वर्ड्स करना चाहते हैं सर कि हर कोई ग्रो कर रहा है, हम इंडिया में क्यों नहीं ग्रो कर रहे हैं? हम उसको क्यों नहीं देख रहे हैं? कुछ समय पहले हमें बुलाया गया था वहाँ बांग्लादेश के टूरिज्म मिनिस्टर। हम जब गए तो वहाँ एयरपोर्ट पे 2 लड़कियां, मिस्टर कुमार, हम समझे कहीं हम दूसरे जगह आ गए हैं, यूरोपियन कंट्री में हम आ गए। इतना सुंदर से वेलकम की, होटल में सब कुछ, और लगा कि हम कहाँ पे आ गए हैं। इतना तेजी से बांग्लादेश बढ़ रहा है सर, नो डिफरेंस बिटवीन मैन एंड वुमेन, और इतना सपोर्ट कर रही है। दूसरा चीज, वियतनाम गए हुए थे। वियतनाम में होटल का रिसेप्शन पे ही इतना पोलाइटली बात कर रही थी कि अंतिम में हम लोग को रहना पड़ा। बजट नहीं था, हम लोग क्योंकि वो सिंपल है भाई, बजट में रहते हैं, बजट क्लास में, तो हम देख रहे थे, लेकिन फिर भी इस तरह कर रही थी और लगा कि नहीं देखो कैसे टूरिज्म को हैंडल करती है। दूसरा नेपाल देख लीजिए सर, वहाँ लेडीज जेंट्स दोनों को हुजूर कहा जाता है। पहली बार हमने सुना कि भाई हुजूर, लेडीज को हम मिस्टर कहते हैं, इनको सर कहते हैं, मैडम कहते हैं, लेकिन नेपाल में दोनों को हुजूर कहते हैं। तो मेरा कहने का मतलब कि वो एक सिक्के के 2 पहलू है सर, उनको लेके चलना पड़ेगा, और तब हमारा टूरिज्म ग्रो करेगा। जैसे भगवान बुद्ध ने कहा कि नहीं टूरिज्म आगे बढ़ेगा, और देखिए बुद्धिज्म आगे बढ़ेगा। तो इसीलिए टूरिज्म को लेडीज के, बिना लेडीज के हॉस्पिटलिटी इंडस्ट्री नहीं चलेगा सर। थैंक यू वेरी मच।
Thank you, Dr. Kolesh. And now we have the academic part, and we are having with us from the Indian Institute of Tourism and Travel Management, which is founded by Ministry of Tourism, Government of India, Professor Sarat Lenka, who is based in the Bhubaneswar, Odisha, and they do lots of work with the Government of India Ministry with the skill development. Sarat, if you can share how can this women entrepreneurship can be developed? Over to you, Professor Sarat. Professor Lenka.
Namaskar.
Yeah. Namaskar.
Thank you, Amrit, for your invitation, and I was thankful to UN Women for inviting me and to share my thoughts before different staff who are on board. So basically, because I divided this women empowerment 2 parts, or rather in the tourism industry. One is the academic part, another is training. Although we do lot of training, consultancy, and also research on this subject. And again, I'm thankful to UN Women also, including Odisha, also taking Odisha, Bihar, Maharashtra, Rajasthan, and focusing particularly Odisha for this women development. And when you go to seventh school, rather I focus on more, particularly the fourth point, which is important, that is more on academic education, training, and professional development. But if you see the statistics of UNWTO, then I think more women are engaged in this work. I mean, more the industry, they are putting these girls or the women in this work, and a very little number in professional and for other service work. But people see, because I again divide into part one rural India, and I will say what is industrial urban. I'll take example of Odisha. I was focusing on Odisha. Odisha, because it goes back to 2005 when it started in a small village with the forest department, which is eco packages. And we found that the training was provided by ISM and IITM for that operators. And we found about out of 20, there were 16 girls and women. Similar way, this project is now going on, that is the government of Odisha has taken with coordination, cooperation with this forest department, this department already started about 40 places. And that is also, if we find particularly rural area, more than 70% are women. Their workforce is more than 70% women. And that is a very good model, because whatever the earning, no doubt government of Odisha and the first one industry, and identifying the place, providing the eco facilities, accommodations, and this eco to the centers. But they are engaged mainly around 70%, about 65-70% are women. And the training part is the training they have given to IITM, because on behalf of tourism, we are also providing training and their professional development. So it is not like women and working, but you have to identify and you have to create and what to say this awareness. Yes, you can do it, or rural women can do it. And that is happening because entirely now all the eco centers are managed by women. And again, Mr. Mahanti, which in the Turkey group, he has already told that it is because we propose clinical research and it is about 20-30% of women. So it is because they need this awareness. Because sometimes, because it's my personal view, so when we are discussing with this rural women particularly, they have fear. Tourism industry, so many foreign tourists will come, they are very, we say, high people and affluent people who may not be able to provide a service. But you have to create confidence on them. That always we do first few classes, all the 10 days program we have designed, and now we are offering all these 40 places. First route is 2 days. We try to make them confident. Yes, you can do it. Why you cannot do it? You can do it. It is not only language. Yes, your communication is improved, but it is not only language. You don't know it doesn't matter. But you can do it. So that is my personal view. That is going to create confidence on them, and they can deliver. Because I will give a lot of fun. This model is which government of Odisha is implementing. That is about only about 40% they are sitting either, but 50% they are giving to this workers, so that is this and salary, whatever we can say.
Thank you.
Yes, please.
Yeah, please.
I'll take 2 minutes. But one example I'll give, that is CBTG, which was that were guide, because sometimes we're talking about the guide. Yes, the government also had taken this initiative to this department of the government of Odisha. We had conducted one CBTG in tribal area. At that time, my focus was to just identify some of the girls, particularly from tribal area, to train them. We had trained 30 people, and out of that, 5 were only girls. We tried to build a confidence on them, and now also they are working. But if when you come to education is different. Education, no doubt, lot of girls would come in, but initially, if you take our intake, about 30% to 35% of girls in this like the radio program, DJ program. But after computer education, they are joining industry today, and after marriage, they are leaving the job and they are the public. So this is majority. That is the serious situation in this academy. But I think now this women area should focus on particular rural area to train and professional development for women for this area. With these words, again I thank you all, and particularly Amnesty and even
Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Professor Lenka, and you had very thoughtfully given your wisdom. Now only have we have two more speakers from the tourism side. The next speaker is who is working in the last 30 years at a very grassroots level, at a village level in the interiors of Rajasthan, and he knows in and out about the Rajasthan, and especially in the Chittorgarh and that region, he is working lots. Mr. Farooq Qureshi is with us, who handle the the tourism arrangement and ground handling for the tourists coming to the region from last 25, 30 years, and he's the well-known personality there. Farooq, over to you if you can share your experience and how we can look into this. Farooq Qureshi, please.
Uh, Good morning to everyone. Thank you, Amrishji, to being part of that. But all my senior bosses are there, and they must have told everything now. So I don't think so I have to say anything because all my senior colleagues and my senior bosses say everything about that. I just say thanks to you.
Thank you, Farooq. If you are wanted to reserve your views for the later on. From the industry side, I want to sum up by the Ashish Gupta, who is the consulting CEO for the Faith, and very well-known personality, and is representing the government of India in the policy strategy making. So Ashish, if you can sum up from the industry side before I'll hand over the mic to the Kantaji from the UN to sum up the further. Ashish Gupta, please.
Hi, Amrish. Good afternoon, everyone. Amrish, thank you so much for the invite. Good afternoon, all. I think this is an extremely critical and a very timely topic. And we have heard such fantastic stories about the kind of examples on the ground root level. Uh, there is so much which is happening, and there is so much which can already also happen going forward. So I think it's very important that so many of these individual examples we need to create some kind of an institutionalized process, the way you and women mentioned. And I think one of the key steps to that is increasing more alignment. How can there be a better alignment between government and industry to create more women as part of the either women enterprises or women-led enterprises? Similarly, so within the industry itself, across the tourism value chain, not just hospitality, but tour operations, travel agents, transportation, how can we align our system to ensure that women are in a position to participate? Because merely symbolically talking about having women as in workforce, we need to move from that and create systems so that alignment is necessary. Second, we need to move towards creating an aspiration for women to join this particular sector. As was rightly said, there are some who join because of a lack of alternative. But we need to work towards creating an aspiration to ensure that this industry can create those level of opportunities for women across all levels. The third key aspect is we need to create action-oriented programs across the whole value chain, be it travel agents, tour operations. We need to ensure that all of our systems are creating programs which are outreaching, as Mr. Monti was pointing out, as Babji was pointing out, to be able to involve women. And finally, we need to make them actionable, and we need to make them accountable. What is the level of women percentage in terms of entry level workforce? What is the level of women percentage in terms of mid level and senior level? What are the kind of women specific policies which have been introduced, which are creating and facilitating? And how are we ensuring that these organizations are in a better position to work with women and not just talk about working with women? One, I think national level, I think one of the key things that the industry did was it recognized that India was in a really bad position because it was being identified as a country where women were unsafe. And Faith, in a National Tourism Council meeting, recommended to the government to create I Respect Women badges, which you would have seen over the past many years behind the taxis. So I Respect Women, the idea was to help all the service providers across the transportation sector and across services to be aware that they are dealing with a delicate subject, and they need to be self-conscious of the fact they need to make extra effort to respect women and to create those kind of safety policies. So I think mere symbolism and this needs to move. We need to move away from mere symbolism, and we'll be very happy to partner with NHRDN and with UN Women. So I would request NHRDN and UN Women, Amrish, if you could circle to the Fate board, the presentation that UN Women circulated. If you can circle to the whole Fate board, that would be
I will
great.
do that. I will do that.
Special request to NHRDN and to UN Women, if you have global best benchmarks of how the companies are creating policies for those, and not just picking up specific, we'd be very happy to share them. And as we said, we need to move towards away from just awareness. We need to move towards action oriented. We are fully committed to the cause, and we look forward to taking our next steps. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Assis. We were had our women leadership, Jyoti Mayalji from the President Thai. Unfortunately, she's in UK and it's too early and she was not able to join in. Vasuki from the Maharashtra chapter, ITO chapter head Vasuki. She was also supposed to join. Unfortunately, I could not find her. So I'll hand over the mic to Dhananjay for the further, the summing up with the UN Women in the NHRDN. Over to you, Dhananjay ji.
Thank you, Amresh ji. Before we do that, I can see Aditi ji there. Aditi ji would like to speak. Would like to hear from you. Request you to kindly unmute. Over to you, please.
Good afternoon to everyone. Well, I've been listening to this talk for the last 1.5 hours and more. And first of all, I thank you all for inviting Tafi. I'm the Secretary General for Travel Agents Federation of India. And to express my thought, I would first say that women empowerment firstly begins with the state of mind of a woman. If she feels empowered, everything else changes. And I think that's where the real beginning happens, which will come with education and exposure which can be given to her. We are concentrating a lot on our talk. In our talk, also, I've seen that on the urban woman through in hospitality sectors or in the travel tourism sectors, but we really need to concentrate on the rural women to make a change in India. If the rural woman goes through a change, the entire society changes because a woman would change her family, and that family would in turn make a difference in the entire fabric of India. I think it is very important that through tourism we try to reach out to the women, uh, where the government of India should make special give special privileges to such kind of education. In fact, many years ago, I think in 2000, uh, I was very fortunate to have interacted with Maharaj Sri Gaj Singh Ji and Jodhpur, where I had taken children from various villages for a program which was called Friends of the World. And these children were exposed to the royalty of Rajasthan. And Gaj Singh Ji was very thoughtful in taking these children to see a polo match, which they would have never seen in their life. And this kind of exposure and all the other things that we did on that particular tour had changed these children, where they went back to their homes and they made a difference in their homes and in their surroundings. So this is the same thing which I'm trying to refer to when where it is concerned with women. First of all, a woman can do well if the family and her partner, her husband, supports her. So first and foremost, the education should start from there, that the family and the partner is also educated about the need to support the woman to be able to achieve more. And once she is able to do that, she is definitely going to make a difference in everything that she does. because that exposure leads her to not only giving much more to the society, but also making herself more self-reliant. Uh, I would like to say that where government of India is concerned, I think we should adopt certain policies which we see in the outside world. Like when we go to Thailand, we have tours which are directed via their gems factory or through their batik factories, which is a compulsion. If you don't visit them, the travel company does not get the required concessions. And this should be also incorporated into Indian tourism, because this would definitely help the women who are participating in all the arts and crafts to get an incentive. Through this, I think even tourism increases because there is so much more that they can see. I would like to also say that women make a big difference, and it should start from the family. It should start from home. If every male decides that he is going to make sure that the woman in his house or the women around him get the due respect, I think India will be a better place.
Thank you, Atiji, and my sincere apology to you. I was not able to recall your name earlier. Aditi is from the Toffee and Secretary General. Thank you, Atiji. I'm sorry for that, and I just missed your name while reading out all the name.
That's all right.
Dhananjay ji, over to
No
you.
problems, Amreshji. And I would like to acknowledge that it's already 12:36, so we had blocked everyone's time till 12:30. But the passion, the kind of commitment, the kind of guidance which we have received from starting from Babji to Aditi ji and everyone in between, we don't have words to thank you enough and more. However, formal vote of thanks will come from UN Women when Ishita ji will come. But before that, I would like to hear from Kanta ji and Madhulika ji. Before I do that, I must say that today I am feeling that there is a very humble step today we have taken, and how blessed we are, each one of you. Ideally, I would like to listen to each one of you who are present here. Because of paucity of time, we are not able to do it. But starting from, as I said, Babji to Aditi ji, and in between, the kind of guidance which we have received, how beautiful it is. From Mohanty Babu to UN Women, the kind of this ecosystem which is not only local, but it is also at the same time national, and it is international. And with so much of your voluntary time you all have given, each one of us, so that we can contribute to the cause. So with folded hands, I would like to express my gratitude towards each one of you. Babji, we could not believe that you personally are going to join and bless this and grace this. And likewise, this goes for each one of you. Dada, when it was pandemic period, we heard you when we were talking about HR policies with the industry sector. Goel Saab, I can see him still making notes, such a veteran of this field, and sitting and making notes and sharing thoughts. Rajiv ji, Captain Saab, Khanna Saab, Sharad ji, Ashish ji. Yesterday I had a very good discussion, almost 10 plus minutes with him, Anup ji. And Sohila ji, as rightly Rajiv ji said that if there were 180 signatories, this program itself will double it for at least. I'm sure many of us will have a lot of questions to you. Kaushalesh ji, thank you so much. So beautifully you talked about the importance and the impact of mid-path and impact of women on Buddha's life, and the kind of overall impact the teaching and the principles and the practices has on life. So with this, may I humbly request Kanta ji to share her thoughts before Ishita ji formally proposes a vote of thanks, please. So with same gratitude and gratefulness for each one of you, over to Kanta ji, please.
Thank you, Dhananjay, and thank you, everyone. It's one of the most interesting discussions that I've been part of. Not only because it was a very high-level discussion, with very senior leaders, but also because we discussed issues with empathy. We all understand there are challenges. We all understand that there is not only a social, political, but also an economic cause, economic issue here, which women have to be part of. And definitely, as Sohela mentioned, there is a business case for it, and beyond rights. So it makes perfect sense for all of us to consider making a very diverse workforce, and which also includes the third gender. I'm sure many of you know that Lalit Group has also hired many transgender LGBT community people, and they are doing fantastic work. Similarly, I think it's a good example and good practice for all of us also to include them in our workforce, because they have as much as many rights as we all have. They are also human beings. So beyond women, I think I will also request all of you to also consider that. But I'm personally enriched by the discussion we had today, and you have shown us the way. Please allow us to come back to you with a short film which already exists, which Rajiv ji mentioned, and I think the film will be there and will be shared with you, which you can then share with your companies and your employees. I also like what Captain Savdesh mentioned, that there has to be personal commitment there. And Mayer Saab has shown example, and Bhagirathi Foundation and the work that I'm familiar with. We lived in Jodh for 2.5 years, so I'm familiar with the work that you've been doing, Babji. So some of the most remarkable comments that were made by you today, we are going to follow up on some of those advices. I'm again, like Dhananjay mentioned, this. I don't know how to convey to you, but we are very, very thankful to you for your time and your commitment. We will be contacting you and will be sharing not only the presentation, the film, but also will be seeking your advice once again, and see if we can support you in any way. If the government is able to do something, that's one part of it. But if you and women could be part of your journey in some way, somebody mentioned, I'm forgetting who, but working with women may not change the world, but we can change their world. Every woman's world we can change by involving her. So, and that's very important. To us, every woman matters. To us, every human being matters. So we will be committed to working with you and will come back to you. But Ishita will propose the vote of thanks. But I'm personally, on behalf of UN Women, would like to thank all of you for being here today and guiding us. Thank you, Dhananjay ji and Amresh ji. A very sincere thanks to you for bringing everyone together. It wouldn't have been possible without your help. And Aditi ji, you came last, but I would like to see more women leaders coming and speaking next time so that they can also give their perspective. Thanks a lot, everyone. Really nice. Ishita.
Thank you. And Amresh ji, the way you have stitched it together as the moderator and as the leader, and I have seen when a pandemic was on and lot of challenges we are going through, all of you came together. We had such candid discussions. So thank you, Amresh ji. Words will fail us. And once again, on behalf of all of us, thank you. And for formal vote of thanks, Ishita ji, over to you, please. Thank you.
Okay, everyone. Thank you. Hi, Ishita. Before Ishita starts,
Please, Madhulika ji, please. There is some dissonance somewhere.
If everyone can switch on their videos, we'll just take a group photo, because if this would not have been virtual, we would have anyways done that. But this is the best we can do in a virtual world. So we'll just click a quick photograph, and then I would request Ishita to close the session. Yeah.
Speaker should be on?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm giving speakers on.
Thank you. Okay.
Sorry, I must fix my hair. So I'll do it again. Okay, carry on.
Yeah.
Babji, smile.
वो smile हो गई अब.
So yeah. So our comms person tells us it's done. Thank you, Zoya. Over to you, Ishita.
All right. I'm going to assume that I am audible. If not, please just leave a message in the chat box, and I'll know that I'm not audible. I'd like to thank all our distinguished friends and panelists and all the discussants and the moderators for taking the time out to be with us today to discuss this very important issue of economic empowerment for women. It's an issue that's very, very close to UN Women. It's also an issue which is very close to our program, which is called the Second Chance Education and Vocational Learning Program, under which we have all assembled here today to take up this topic. And as Kanta as well as Dhananjay mentioned, that we will reach out to you and get in touch with you, and of course share the Women's Economic Empowerment Principles presentation that was done today by Suhaila. And we definitely hope that we can further our engagement with you and definitely engage much more collaboratively, closely, and far more interactive than just one-off meetings. So please do allow us some time to come back to you. And thank you so much once again for taking the time to be with us today. Thank you so much. And with that, we can close the meeting.
Thank you very much. Thanks on behalf of the NHRDN and UN Women. I would like to thank everyone for joining, and I look forward to beginning the new path, for the UN Women and the women entrepreneurship in India. Thank you very much, all of you.
Thank you, Amresh ji.
Thank you all. Grateful thanks to all of you.
Thank you, Amresh.